And of course, it is time for Star Wars Storytime. If you don't know what Star Wars Storytime is, it's a blast. You're going to see here in a couple seconds. Stick around. But also make sure to like and subscribe because that's important. It helps us out a whole bunch. Look, Chris, the world is full of Star Wars comics and other comics, and there's probably Star Wars porn and all this stuff you don't have time for, but I've got tons of time for it. So I read a cool Star Wars comic or book or
porn.
We've not done any of those yet. I'm not necessarily against it, but that'll be some. That's not this week, is all I'm saying. So I read it, and then I tell you, I reenact it in a very inaccurate way. Usually it's hilarious.
It's relatively accurate. Like you get the major details, right?
Yeah. So before we go on, a huge thank you to our friend over at Star Wars Comics Story, who if you don't want to go and buy the comics or whatever, you can go over to his YouTube channel, and he makes sliding videos of everything, and it's all high quality and great. And so thank you for him. Also, well, not also, but this week is Yoda #1, Light and Life. And this is different than so there was a one-off Yoda. There's like an Age of Rebellion one shot for Yoda.
He's just going around Dagobah talking about how shitty his life is.
Right. But
and then Luke crashes like, well, I guess this day's got exciting.
Yes. This is not that. This is this is the first in a series that focuses on Yoda, which is really cool because there's not a ton of current canon stuff on Yoda, which is kind of nice. So we open on Dagobah, and in a little hut in the middle of a swamp, former Grandmaster Yoda is like trying to meditate. And he sits down, he closes his eyes, he gets comfortable. He does the hand thing where it's like his hands are like on his knees, and he's like,
God, what's that smell? Oh, wait, it's the entire planet.
Yeah. And he breathes, and then there's a voice. He's like, Master Yoda, you up? And it's the ghost of Qui-Gon Jinn. And like Yoda ignores him.
Qui-Gon, come for Netflix and chill you have.
Yeah. So Yoda like takes another breath, just ignores him. And Qui-Gon's like, you son of a bitch, I know you can hear me. And he's like, no, I can't. And he's like, how the fuck did you answer me if you can't hear me? And
Yoda's like, checkmate, atheists.
Yeah. Right. It must be the wind. And Qui-Gon's like, wow. Like, I see being an old miserable son of a bitch hasn't dulled your wit. And he's like, Yoda answers, and I see you're like,
I see being dead hasn't prevented your ability to annoy me.
Right. And I see you're still persistent and needy despite being like fucking dead. I'm meditating, Qui-Gon. Like, come back later. And he's like, look, I need to talk to you. Stop being an asshole. It's really important. And like Yoda like mightily rolls his eyes, and he's like, you know what's important? Peace and harmony and all that shit. And Qui-Gon's like, look, I was looking down on you from Force Heaven when you literally threw your lightsaber at a clone trooper, hopped on his dead body like a squirrel on cocaine, pulled it out of his chest while his friends watched. Let's not get too fucking sanctimonious.
That actually happened in Revenge of the Sith.
And Yoda's like, it must be the wind. It must be the wind.
Please, dear sweet Force Jesus, let it be the wind.
So like Yoda takes another breath. He's like, if I just ignore him, he'll just fucking go away. And he starts singing for a second, and finally, he opens one eye. He's like, "What? What do you want? Like, would it kill you to have a little bit of patience?" And he takes a breath, and he collects himself, sits back down, and he picks up this little Mbira. You know what an Mbira is?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think you had a different musicology teacher than I did. They're these little, little thumb things, okay. Right? They're African instruments. Piano, yeah. And he picks it up and he looks at it and like plucks out a little song on it to calm himself down. He's like, ding, 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 ding. And Qui-Gon's like, I remember everything you taught me about patience. The question here is like, do you remember? And like Yoda's like trying not to lose his shit. He's like, and he looks at it in his Mbira and then goes to flashback land. All right. Mm-hmm. So in the Outer Rim on a planet called Turok, it's a long time ago in a galaxy, at least on a planet far, far away from where he is now. Yeah. This purple teenage boy of an alien race named Bree is about to climb into the crashed remains of some like kind of like walker thing, right?
Okay.
And before he's able to like get into the hatch, like a piece of fruit sails through the air and smacks him in the side of the head, and it's thrown by his sister Lyda. And she's like, Mom said to come home. And he's like, what? It's not even dark yet. Like, the porch lights aren't on.
Yeah, the street lights aren't on, man. Come on.
And she's like, you have to do your chores. And he's like, fuck chores. I'm in the middle of something. And she's like, I'm telling Mom. But, like, she doesn't run off. Like, she just kind of stands there and watches. Like, and after a second, she's like, do you really think you can get that thing running again? And he's like, no, I'm 14 years old. I have no idea what the fuck I'm doing.
What do I look like? A mechanic?
But, like, there's some machinery in here that might make our lives easier. Yeah. And she says that their friend Trick says it's cursed. And he's like, well, Trick's a fucking moron. Like, curses don't exist. And as if on cue, a horn blows in the distance, signaling a raid against their village. And his sister's like, it's a curse. And he's like, shut up, there's no curse. And so they run back to see what's going on. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, at the village, a small fleet of boats, it's like a village on like a beach, right? Yeah. Small fleet of boats is about to land on their beach. And the aliens raiding the village are like these giant, ugly motherfuckers. Like the main guy is at the front, like the lead boat, like at like the very front of the boat, like leading the charge and everything. And he's like, take everything you can carry. Like these guys are 4 fucking feet tall. This will be easy. And meanwhile, like Bree and Lyda's mom and a bunch of the other adults like take positions with blasters and they're like trying to shoot them and shit. And like another raider on the boat was like, well, they're 4 feet tall, but like now they have guns. And he's like, motherfucker, we have guns. And he gets on the forward gun on the boat and like starts like firing into the village, right? Some of the adults die.
It's very like the first scene of Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah. Or have you ever seen Waterworld?
Yes.
This is what this reminded me of. And it's not even really like, it's not exactly the same because
what, do they have gills behind their ears?
Gills. No, but you know how like they're the guys on the boats with the guns and shit. It's like Mad Max, but in like, you know, in the water.
Yeah.
And so like they're killing people and like some adults die that like Bree and Lyda know, right? Yeah. And like they're people they know and like the kids start to freak out.
Yeah.
And so their mother tells them to hide, but Bree just takes off, scales the village wall and runs to the crashed walker he was messing with earlier. Mm-hmm. And he crawls into the hatch. He sits down on the pilot seat. He starts madly pushing buttons. And he notices like a little communication suite, right, with a headset. And he grabs the headset and he's like, I don't know if anyone can hear me, but my name's Bree. I'm purple. I'm on a planet called Turok. And I'm just now realizing my being purple is probably not important. Anyway, our village is under attack by raiders and we need help. We're all on our own. So across the galaxy, the transmission is intercepted at the Jedi Temple. Mm-hmm. Now, the Jedi Council is having a meeting.
That's very serendipitous.
Yes.
That it went all the way there.
Yeah. I think they were just like, they've got a guy in a room somewhere who's just like listening and they're like, did he say he's purple? This might be interesting.
Yeah.
So the Jedi Council's having a meeting. Yoda's chair is suspiciously empty. Mm-hmm. And we don't know any of these members because like this is like in the past, right? Yeah. There's like a little green guy with no face. There's like a weird anteater looking dude. There's a dude in a mask and like a tall dude with head horns and this like big majestic fucking beard.
A child in a mosque.
Yeah. It's like the one bounty hunter that has like the weird, he looks kind of like he's got like a bunch of like shit happening. Anyway, and there's this other Jedi is got this like big fucking beard and his name's Pra-Tre.
Okay.
And the anteater Jedi is like, well, you heard the message. Like, what do we do? And Pra-Tre is like, I mean,
I don't fucking know. He's purple. He can take care of himself.
Right. We have science on this. Purple people do fine.
Yeah.
He's like, it sounds worrying, but I haven't like even heard of this planet. And the dude in the mask is like, what the fuck does that matter? Like someone's in trouble. And Pra-Tre is like, look, I feel for them, but we're the fucking Jedi High Council. Surely there's someone else we can pass the buck to. Maybe we just like send him thoughts and prayers. And that joke was on purpose, and It wasn't a joke, unfortunately. So Anteater's like, the fuck, are you serious? Like, we're Jedi. This is what we do. We protect people who can't protect themselves. Like, we have to go do something. And Pra-Tre is like, fine, I'll go, but only because I'll be focused on getting it done quickly. Like, we don't have time for this. And Yoda's voice rings out through the chamber, and he's like, you're an asshole, Pra-Tre, I'm going. And
Pra-Tre is like, yes, now I don't have to get out of my comfortable chair.
Well, see, what you don't know about Pra-Tre is that he's a huge fucking brown noser. And he's like, but you're the Grand Master. Surely your place is here on Coruscant. Like, we can't risk
Surely you have better things to do than go off and worry about some purple people.
Yes, we can't risk your safety, oh holiness. And Yoda's like, no, that what I just said wasn't a question. Like, I'm going. My place is where the Force tells me to go. Now sit your brown nose and ass down, like weird green guy with no face. You're in charge until I get back. And like the guy with no face, like he can't emote, so he just like gives a thumbs up. So back on Turok. It's nighttime, and the village is burning.
Yes.
They're not doing very well against the raiders. Bree's mother is trying to protect them, and the raiders are just like pillaging and raping and shit. And Bree's like, don't worry, Mom, I posted something on the Help We're Primitive and we're being attacked subreddit.
I posted on Reddit. It'll be fine.
I'm sure someone will be here soon. Yeah. And this big raider wearing these big fucking antler horns like walks up. He's got this giant battle axe and he's like, time to die, little purple dudes. And like
no, we're purple sparrows.
Yeah, like the raider like winds up and he's about to swing his axe and shit, and suddenly the axe flies from his hands and he's like, what the fuck? And the axe smacks into the palm of Jedi Master Yoda. Now listen, this is the thing, this axe is like 4 foot tall, like it's taller than Yoda is, right? And he like fucking grabs it. He's standing on top of this giant like pile of burning wreckage. He turns on his lightsaber. He looks so fucking epic, right? Just axe in one hand, lightsaber in the other, and he's like, the tide has turned, motherfuckers. Get ready for cocaine squirrel. One of the raiders like, holy shit, like that's a Jedi. And the other raiders like, who gives a fuck? Like, we've got blasters. And so they all pull out.
We're also like 10 times his size. Yeah. Just to beat the shit out.
Right, there's nothing to worry about. And so all the raiders pull out their guns. They start shooting at Yoda. Yoda like gives like a little mischievous grin and leaps through the air. Now he starts cutting everyone down, right? He's like moving through the raiders, double wielding, by the way, a lightsaber and a giant battle axe.
This axe is like 4 times his height.
He's chopping blasters up. He's cutting limbs off, and he's monologuing the whole time about how this is why he serves the light. He gets to chop people in half. He's this like tornado of destruction, and the purple dudes are just like staring at him like wide eyed. They're like, what the fuck? And he lands right in front of Bree.
Like, he's the good guy, right?
Yeah, right. Oh God, I hope he's the good guy. So Yoda lands right in front of him. Bree like falls over. He's like, oh, holy fuck. And Yoda tosses in the battle axe. He's like, here, kid, hold on to this. He jumps back into the fight. He's cutting people down. And like he turns back, looks at Bree, and he's like, and watch your fucking mouth, kid. And he goes back to cutting down raiders. So like at one point he like picks up a hay wagon and throws it. He snatches blasters with the Force and he's cutting them down.
Just murdering everybody.
Yeah. And he stops for a breath, and suddenly this heavy blaster cannon hits the ground kind of close to where he is and like knocks him over. And his lightsaber is like sent flying like yards away. The purple people jump up and rush to his side, and he's like making sure he's okay. And Yoda like pulls himself up and like rubs his back. He's like, oh God,
like too old for this shit. I am.
This is going to be painful tomorrow probably. And the shot came from the raider, like their leader. He's on this like armored speeder bike looking thing, and he's like, okay, little green dude, fun's over, time to die. And Yoda looks over at his lightsaber and calls it with the Force. And the raider's like, oh God, he's got his lightsaber. Yoda jumps at this bike and destroys it. And the raider falls on the ground, and Bree, who has the battle axe, walks over to him and like puts it to his throat, and he's like about to take this motherfucker's head off, right? And Yoda like walks up to him and he talks him down. He's like, this isn't how we do this. Like, this isn't the way.
You don't kill this guy except for, all the billions of other people I just killed.
Don't focus on what I did.
Pay no mind to the pile of corpses.
Right. I'm a Jedi.
Do as I say, not as I do.
So Yoda like points the lightsaber at the raider. He's like, get the fuck out of here and tell your friends a 3-foot whirlwind of like ass whooping took you and your friends out. And so he gets up and runs, and like the survive, like the people who have survived get up and they run with him, right? And like the main guy is like, you don't even fucking live here. Like, what is this? You don't even live here. And Yoda puts his lightsaber back in his belt, and he's like, well, I do now, asshole. And Bree's like, shit, really? Like,
really?
You're gonna live here? That's awesome. So a courier probe flies back to Coruscant, and Jedi Master Brown-Nose is like walking through the halls of the Jedi Temple, talking to another Jedi, like that really like where they're like their hands are steepled and they're talking about very important things and shit. And this other like Jedi, I don't know, like an intern or shit, like runs up to him and he's like, Master Yoda sent an update on his mission. He's apparently staying there. And Patri is like, are you serious? For how long?
What the fuck?
And the assistant's like,
did he leave Green no face in charge?
Yeah. Is he still? Yeah. Is he in charge this entire time? And so the guy's like, he said you would ask that, and very much in classic Yoda fashion, he recorded an answer. I'm supposed to play when you ask it. And so he pulls the thing out and like presses it. Hologram Yoda's head appears, and he's like, for as long as it takes, motherfuckers, and not a moment less. And this is not the first time. You can tell by their reaction. This is not the first time something like this has happened, where Yoda just like, he's more Qui-Gon than anyone would ever.
He just goes rogue.
Yeah, and it's like Qui-Gon and Yoda, despite Yoda being constantly pissed off at Qui-Gon for doing his own thing, they're very much alike, right? Mm-hmm. So back on the planet, Yoda's watching, like they're having this celebration. Mm-hmm. Right. And they've got like a bonfire and they're dancing around the fire. And there's this group of musicians, like they've got instruments and drums. And Yoda, of course, is sitting with the village elders. Sure. Just like hanging out with them. Like these guys with these big fucking beards and shit. And they're like passing the pipe around and shit. And
passing the bong.
Yeah. And Bree is sitting next to Yoda. And Yoda's just kind of like off in his own little thing. He's watching the musicians. And like, as the kids would say, Yoda's like vibing. Mm-hmm. Right. And one of the instruments is a giant Mbira thing, except like a person-sized one, like big fucking thing. And Bree is like, so are you really going to stay? And Yoda's like, yeah, like as long as it takes to make sure you guys are safe. Like, I'm Yoda, by the way, and I'd like to know more about your way of life. Like, we'll learn it together. Yeah. And in the distance, someone watches the celebration through binoculars. It's the leader of the Raider clan, and he's clearly going to be back. And we'll probably die by the end of this whole thing. And that's where we put our to be continued stamp. Yeah. Text. Sure. Notice.
Whatever.
Yeah. So anyway, end of issue 1. Yoda being a complete badass. Just I just want to
Yoda.
I want to
very large.
Yeah, axe. I want to reiterate: double wielding a lightsaber and a battle axe, because